Welcome back to Profit Playbook DFS. I'm Jaime Hernandez, and we're diving into week 2 of NFL DraftKings DFS. Week 1 was rough. But that's exactly what we expected, right? With so many games, so many teams holding their starters out in preseason. But the good news, we've got real data now based off week 1. We saw the snap counts, the targets, the carries, and of course, that gives us the edge to bounce back strong this week, right? So let's go ahead and get ready for week 2. Let's break down the top plays, the best values, and the matchups you can exploit to profit in week 2 NFL DFS on DraftKings. Let's go ahead and get started with the quarterbacks. First, let's go to the most expensive one on the slate, obviously. That's Buffalo quarterback Josh Allen. I mean, what can we say about Josh Allen, right? I mean, he's a beast. He comes in with the highest ceiling projection this week, right? Last Sunday, he led a huge comeback against the Ravens with 394 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 14 rushing attempts, 30 yards rushing, and 2 rushing touchdowns. It was a ceiling game for him. And as you can see, 41.76 DraftKings points. So he definitely has a ceiling, and he also has one of the highest floors, which you can tell by the price, right? Pricing doesn't just take account into ceiling games; it also takes account for floor games as well. And this week he gets the Jets, and then in week 1, the Jets gave up 4 passing touchdowns and 244 yards to Aaron Rodgers. And of course, Rodgers isn't the rusher Allen is, and Allen still threw for 2 touchdowns, right? Like I mentioned, ran for 2. He's way younger than Rodgers and has a stronger arm than Rodgers. So when it comes to Allen, I believe even though expensive, he's the highest upside quarterback on the slate with a high floor. So he's the first pick at quarterback. And then let's go to, of course, um, I have other quarterbacks, but the first 2, of course, I wanted to give you the highest ceiling, which is Josh Allen, and then I'm gonna give you the biggest value / pump play, and that we go to San Francisco. As you can see here, Brock Purdy is out. He is out, officially confirmed out. So we can go all the way down here to Mac Jones. I don't know if you guys seen this, but with Bill Belichick, how he was having issues in New England before he left, and he had stopped talking to Mac Jones. So it was rough in New England, right? One of the reasons he was traded to Jacksonville, I believe, and then of course now he ended up with San Francisco. Um, but when it comes to Mac Jones on DraftKings here, he's at 4,000, right, on his salary. But he's also got the third highest projected plus minus of all quarterbacks. And at 4,000, I mean, that's awesome, right? He gets his first start for the 49ers in New Orleans. And while he won't have Kittle, he should have Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall, which they went for over 100 yards in week 1. Of course, that was with Purdy throwing them the ball. But last season, Jones did start 7 games for the Jags. He tossed 8 touchdowns to 8 picks and averaged 209 passing yards a game. So the matchup is solid. And the Saints, they just lost to Arizona. And Jones, he doesn't have to do much at all to smash value at this price point at 4,000. He's one of the best value plays for the past, I would say, at the quarterback position, maybe for the past decade. And with San Francisco, yes, no George Kittle, right? But I mean, he does have Christian McCaffrey catching the ball as well, not just running it. So Mac Jones would be the highest value play in pump play in my book. But now we can go ahead and get back to the rest of the quarterbacks here. We go to the second highest in Lamar Jackson. When it comes to Lamar Jackson, Baltimore is implied for a slate high 28.5 points against division rival Cleveland. The only question here is how much of that offense comes through Lamar, right? And how much is from the run game or defense? He probably cruises to around 20 fantasy points, but it's tough to project him past that. Normally his ceiling is pretty high, but when it comes to Cleveland, Cleveland's not that good of a football team, and they might play conservative, and the running backs might see a lot of touches as well, which I believe limits Lamar Jackson's ceiling. He's more so of a cash play game, But I mean, he's when I say limits the ceiling, I'm comparing him to Josh Allen, right? To Josh Allen. So, but Lamar Jackson, he's someone I do like when it comes to this slate. I'm just, not as high as him when I'm comparing him and Josh Allen, but he's still a great play. And we can go ahead and go to another guy that I believe a lot of people will be avoiding because of week one, how week one turned out, and that is Jared Goff. And of course, like I mentioned, Jared Goff and the Lions, they looked flat in week one against Green Bay. But definitely, this can be a bounce back spot versus Chicago. Goff actually led the league in fantasy points per attempt versus man coverage last season. Okay? And Chicago just played man 50% of the time in week one. This is no preseason, that was week one. And the Lions offense could stay stuck, or of course, they could get right back on track at home. And a 6,000 salary. It's a risky play, but at the same time, it's too cheap for him if he does bounce back, right? I believe Goff, for a tournament, he's a great pivot. He's got great weapons. He's got Sam Laporta, right? He got Amon-Ra St. Brown and Williams at receiver, and he's got Gibbs running back when it comes to pass catching running back, right? So if he bounces back at 6,000, I believe he's value as well for a tournament. And of course, if he doesn't bounce back, I mean that's the only risky part about it. But we do like Goff, and then we can go to another value play right under him. We go to Dak Prescott from the Dallas Cowboys. And don't be fooled by the box score last week. As you can tell, there 188 yards, right? 0 touchdowns, 1 attempt, 3 yards, only 7.82 fantasy points. So I believe there's gonna be a lot of people just like Goff that they don't play him, right? Which is great if you do. But you got to remember, CeeDee Lamb dropped 3 catchable balls that would have extended drives and led to more production and 2 touchdowns. And now the Cowboys get a much easier matchup against the Giants at home. And once again, he's sub 6,000 salary on DraftKings. This is definitely a classic buy low spot, and I definitely want exposure to him in week 2. Once again, don't get fooled by that box score right here. I believe he bounces back. The only thing is, like, the value is there for quarterbacks this week. Like I just mentioned, got Mac Jones, you have Jared Goff, and of course you have Dak Prescott, like I mentioned, right? And I mean, you can even go to um, Justin Fields here, right here, 29.52 fantasy points versus a tough Pittsburgh defense. So he's also in play at 5,700. When he runs the ball, he's dangerous and he can score touchdowns running the ball, right? But I'm not including Justin Fields in my core plays. Only the ones that I mentioned before him. Of course, Josh Allen, top ceiling. Mac Jones, top value, and then you can go with value again with Jared Goff, uh, and uh, and Jared Goff and Dak Prescott, and then another solid play would be Lamar Jackson. That's really it. Those are my highlights. Um, Now let's go ahead and go back to not go back to, but let's go to the running backs. And this week at running back, we start with the top ceiling play, which is Christian McCaffrey against the New Orleans Saints. Pricing wise, he's the third highest uh, running back on the slate, third most expensive. versus New Orleans. And as we saw last week, the volume is there, 22 attempts, right? And he had 10 targets. That's crazy. 32, basically. 32 opportunities. And he capitalized from 32, he capitalized on what, 31? That's crazy. For 23.2 fantasy points. And now, like I mentioned, Brock Purdy is out. So he should be uh, in for a great game, in my opinion. That's my favorite ceiling play of the slate, Christian McCaffrey. Now we go to the best value. Maybe not the cheapest, but the best value, in my opinion, which is Chase Brown of the Bengals here. They draw the Jaguars. Brown, he logged 21 carries, right? I mean, he only had 43 yards at a 2.0 average, which is not good at all. Um, and he added 2 catches on 3 targets. Sorry about that. He's definitely the preferred option in short yardage situations. And I mean, dating back to last year, he has 8 touchdowns in his last 10 games, right? The Bengals barely escaped Cleveland, but now they definitely get a softer Jacksonville matchup. They just allowed Chuba Hubbard to post 89 total yards and a touchdown. And game script should favor Chase Brown, giving him a strong workload again. And like I said, this defense is definitely softer than the Cleveland defense. He should eat in this matchup. So Chase Brown there. And then we can go ahead and go to Kyron Williams here. Running back Rams. He played on 81% of the Rams snaps in week 1, right? I mean, we know he's a bell cow back. He handled nearly all of the touches, while Blake Corum, he only saw 1 carry. Williams totaled 18 carries here, 66 yards, right? And despite just 14 points against Houston for the Rams offense, Williams' role is locked in. It's always been locked in. I know there was some chatter about his role being reduced, right, to preserve his body. But now the Rams face the Titans. They're 5.5-point road favorites. Williams has averaged nearly 20 DraftKings points when they are the favorite, right? And he remains underpriced. 6,300 for his workload. That's crazy. That's crazy. He's a great play. And now we can go ahead and look at 2 more studs for upside. We can go to Jamar Gibbs here. Detroit Lions, once again, I mean, 15 fantasy points. That's okay, right? 9 attempts, 19 yards. But most of his value came in on the receiving game, 10 receptions for 31 yards, right? It was a terrible day in the office for the whole Lions offense. But like I mentioned before, this is a bounce back game for them. We saw what Aaron Jones did to the Chicago defense, and Jamar Gibbs is head and shoulders uh, better than Aaron Jones, in my opinion. From Aaron Jones, we can go ahead and look at for the highest upside, um, which we highlighted last week. We can go ahead and go back to him. It's Devon Achane, right? He had a 16.5 fantasy points, which is not too bad, but we're looking for a ceiling game from him. And we definitely think he can get against New England. I mean, last week versus Indianapolis, 7 attempts, 55 yards, and 3 receptions for 20 yards and 1 touchdown, right? But he does own a plus 5.18 DraftKings plus minus at home. So it's everything's pointing up, right? And then, like I said, if Miami rebounds, a chain could definitely be the spark plug to this offense, especially with Tua, not clicking with his receivers. I expect these 4 targets to jump to maybe around 7 targets, right? Attempts, maybe rush attempts, maybe on the 15 range. I believe he bounces back, and he does have a ceiling game here versus New England. And that would be it for our running backs. Once again, McCaffrey headlines the pay up tier. Chase Brown brings the volume at mid range, right? But you know, Chase Brown and a chain, I do believe they bounce back with Gibbs, and then Kyron Williams, his workload is just crazy for his price. And now for wide receiver, we can go ahead and start off with Puka Nacua. He is set up for another monster workload, right? Sorry about that. You saw what happened in week 1 with just 14 points on there. He had 11 targets, 10 catches, 130 yards. And he even ran the ball once for 1 yard, which, we don't really care about that. But, versus Tennessee, um, and I believe it would be a higher scoring game than we had versus Houston here. And the Titans secondary allowed production to Cortland Sutton in week 1. And we know Puka Nacua is definitely better than him. So Nakua's volume and efficiency, 10 receptions out of 11 targets. Everything points to an elite ceiling option here, which we love. We'll be all over Puka this week. Hopefully that doesn't burn us like Brian Thomas did last week. Clearly he wasn't a dud, but he was mid last week. So Puka Nacua. And then we can also go to, let me see here. You can go to, where's he at? There's a few here. Let's go. Now we can go with Zay Flowers, right? Zay Flowers, he had a massive 50% target share in week 1, with 9 targets, 7 receptions, 143 yards, and 1 touchdown, 31.1 fantasy points versus Buffalo, right? And once again, like I mentioned, Baltimore's implied team total north of 28. The only thing is, like I mentioned, when it comes to the Baltimore offense and the passing game, is how much of that is going to go in the air and how much is it going to go with the running backs, right? Running the ball versus the Cleveland Browns. But I believe he's safe in cash. With cash. He's he's a for me he's a strictly GPP play. Because versus the Browns, once again, the floor I believe is a little bit lower on him. Lamar, he can run the ball, right? Zay Flowers, I believe it's a little bit lower, but the ceiling is there when it comes to it. Also Zay Flowers, and then we can go to T. Higgins versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. When it comes to Higgins, of course, we know he's WR2 in Cincinnati, but of course, don't let that fool you. He's still heavily involved. I know he's only played 1 game, right? But this Bengals offense, it was, I don't know what happened. Like I mentioned, right? They don't play much in preseason. But the Bengals were one of the teams that actually had their starters out there. But anyways, he had a 24% target share last season, so I'm expecting that to climb starting here versus Jacksonville. And you can do a stack, right, of Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase, and do a bounce back with Brian Thomas, and hoping for a takedown there. And then also, like I mentioned, Jamar Chase, there's nothing else to say about him. I'll highlight him, but he's the most expensive guy. He definitely had a dud last week, but I believe this offense bounces back, and he's got potential for close to 50-point fantasy game, right? So he's in play there. And then you can grab yourself either Keon Coleman from Buffalo and stack him with Josh Allen, right? Or even Joshua Palmer. But he did go off last week. 11 targets, 8 receptions, 112 yards, and 1 touchdown. So he looks like he's WR1 in Buffalo. So you can go ahead and do that. And then if you believe in Daniel Jones, you can go with Michael Pittman Jr. Only issue there is that they're playing the best secondary in the NFL in Denver. But that's it for the receivers. Let's go to tight end here. To be honest with you, I'm going to keep it short. Top spend up option and ceiling, looking at Trey McBride. He's as safe as they can get when it comes to tight end. He's more of like a WR1 than tight end actually. 9 targets, 6 receptions, 61 yards. He had 12.1 fantasy points. He's playing Carolina. Carolina, they're notoriously bad versus tight ends, so he might have a ceiling game here. And I love, if I'm gonna spend up for someone, it's definitely gonna be Trey McBride. I love him this week. And then the only other, there's a few out there, but the other guy that I'm interested in would be Bannon Jr. It's not that people are pushing aside David Njoku, right? It's just that Harold Fannin Jr., in my eyes, I see him like Aaron Hernandez when he was with Rob Gronkowski and Tom Brady, right? Gronkowski was still eating, but Aaron Hernandez, he was lining all up all over the field, a tight end, a wide receiver, at running back, and that's what I see in Fannin Jr. here. So I mean, they both can eat, and at his price tag, 3,100, he's a safe play. He doesn't have to do much for you to hit value there. So that's really it. Those are the only two tight ends that I really do love. Unless you want to go for Philly's tight end two, right? Which let me see here. Philly. Let's see here. Calcaterra. I don't know really how to pronounce his name, but he had some serviceable games last year when Dallas Goddard was out, right? But I mean, in this case, even though I didn't highlight him, I would rather lean in on AJ Brown. You're hoping for a shootout potential versus Kansas City. So I will pass on Calcaterra, but he's an option for you if you wanted to save more than 3,100 on Fannin Jr. But like I said, if I'm gonna go that route, I'd rather spend up a little bit more for AJ Brown at receiver. And then when it comes to defense, I don't really like spending up. As you can tell here, top options, they don't always work out. If you don't believe in Daniel Jones, then you can go ahead and get Denver on the road. But I mean, I'm a Daniel Jones believer, so I won't get Denver here. Um, Someone you can definitely get would be, let's see here, like if you don't believe in the San Francisco 49ers because they're down George Kittle, their receivers basically, and Mac Jones, I mean, you can go with New Orleans here, right? You can go with the Colts, or let's see here. That's pretty much about it. Let's see. Or you can go with any of these, either Dolphins or Patriots, right? But that's really it for me right there. Or if you believe that Sam Darnold's going to be a turnover machine this week, you can go with Pittsburgh. But my favorite ones would be not spending much on that and going with the going with the. Let's see here. I would possibly go with the Miami Dolphins, right? With the Dolphins, or I would go with Indy. You might disagree with me, which is okay. You can, I mean, and if you wanted to spend up, if I were to spend up, it would probably be with Arizona. You know, but that's it. That's all I have for you today. The recap. My favorite plays. I'm gonna give you two of each position. Is Josh Allen and Mac Jones at quarterback. Running back, it will be Christian McCaffrey, and sorry about that. It would be Christian McCaffrey, and um, for sure Christian McCaffrey, and let's see, Christian McCaffrey and a chain for me. Those are my two favorite ones. I love all the ones that I mentioned, of course, but those are my two favorite ones. Wide receiver, Nakua for sure, and Nakua and Jamar Chase. Wouldn't mind spending up there. And tight ends, I mean, I only really gave you two, which is Trey McBride and Fannin Jr., right? So that's really it for me. If you watched this far, I do appreciate you. Uh, I appreciate your views, your likes. Thank you so much. I know we just killed it with college football this week, and I'm hoping that carries over with the NFL. So if you're also into college football, please go ahead and hit that follow button, like and share and subscribe, please. And thank you so much. Let's go ahead and have a great weekend. Let's go ahead and close the weekend strong. And wishing you nothing but the best here for DraftKings and also for your personal fantasy football leagues, okay? Thank you so much and take care. Bye-bye.